more than 50% of exonerations from prison are black people. Like a black person is more likely than any other race to be tried for a crime that they did not commit and then to be released from prison for a crime that they
Yeah,
did not commit.
they're that's not totally true. Let's pretend that it is. It's because they're in front of the justice system more because of the high crime. But let's try to find some agreement.
I'm talking percentages of exonerations. Like they're
No, it's because they're in the system more, though. It's because you have more cases. But anyway, let's pretend that's true. Let's pretend the system's totally racist.
Actually, there's more white people in the system because white people make up like what, like
no, for sure.
So you were just incorrect there, right? Like you're doing to me.
But they don't commit as many crimes.
Okay, so let's be cordial. Let's be cordial.
You're not being, so let's calm down a little bit, okay?
You're not being.
Am I being sweet to this guy?
Okay, but
all right. Let me ask you one question in closing, though. If you could, okay, if you could say to Black America, here is more money, more stuff, more housing, or more fathers, which one would you choose?
More funding. I don't think, because fathers, I think that you need to solve the problem from the bottom. I don't think you can just plant a bunch of fathers in. And
what's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. Today, guys, we're back here in this new video. Today, we're going to be checking out Charlie Kirk destroys race-baiting students with facts and logic. According to Charlie Kick, because he loves kicking us. Let's get right into today's video, guys.
Yeah, so last year you said something about DEI, unqualified black pilots. You see a pilot on a black pilot. Don't you think it was an irresponsible statement suggesting that maybe these pilots aren't qualified or unqualified?
Irresponsible.
But I'll tell you exactly what I said and why I said it.
Okay, go ahead.
I said, the pretext, I went through a whole windup. I said, United Airlines is saying that they want 40% of all their pilots to be people of color or women. We have learned that we have relaxed standards anytime that we try to reach racial quotas. Anytime we reach racial quotas, we relax the standards. Standards for air traffic control, professors, or college admissions. Therefore, when it comes to pilots or surgeons, if I see somebody who is black, as I said on the show, I'm going to hope that person is qualified. That's what I said, which of course is legitimate because they're begging the question, we're not hiring based on merit anymore. We're hiring based on race. So when you see a black pilot, you wonder, boy, is that person there because they earned it or because they were placed there? That's what DEI does. It makes you ask questions you otherwise would not ask.
So the airline industry is going to take an unqualified person just based off diversity.
Underqualified, not
underqualified. Unqualified, underqualified, whatever, uncertified, and put them in a cockpit and risk people's lives?
Those are two different things. Under and un are two different things. Of course, United Airlines will not take someone off the side of the street and put them into a pilot. But in order to reach a 40% goal, they might cut corners. They might accelerate the process in order to reach a goal. We know this through all sorts of DEI examinations and projects over the last 10 years. You have to choose in life. Either excellence or racial quotas will end up being the most important. And both cannot simultaneously exist. It's never happened before.
Okay, so when we talk about DEI, well, who benefits the most? Because black people really don't. It's only like maybe 3 to 4% of black people actually benefit from those programs. So who benefits the most?
I'm not sure your question. I mean, theoretically, if 40% of all pilots end up being black people or people of color.
But that's not. I actually looked it up. It's only like maybe about 6% of pilots
their
are black.
goal is 40%, right? That's the point. It's like that's actually a great point. So they wanted to go from 6% to 40%. And so you have to wonder, boy, you go from 6% to 40%, there's going to be a relaxing of standards.
Okay, I guess the way let me see if I can rephrase this. So essentially when you talk about DEI, affirmative action, or anything to that effect.
I'm against all of it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and that would be fine. The thing is that now it's actually, referenced as a slur against, essentially if you see a black person in a position or, minority or whatever, the assumption is that person is not qualified when literally, and, you have to be qualified in order to even to get in that position.
Well, so let's take college admissions. So this is a great example. At Harvard, we learned because of new revealed documents that black students were having test scores that were 30 to 35% lower than their white counterparts.
Okay.
And so, therefore, if you saw a black kid at Harvard, it's a fact that they were not having the same test standards as their white counterparts.
Still doesn't matter. The kid has to he's got to get through the classes, do the tests, do all the research.
Well, they actually drop out at a greater rate, too. But the point being is just the idea that they were there, number one, took a spot from an otherwise qualified individual that might be white. And they were not there on the same merits. So what we want is the same rules for everybody.
You're making the assumption that they're not qualified in order to get in. In order to even get there,
it's not the assumption. It's the data. So for example, it's literally at Harvard, you had kids with perfect SAT scores, perfect ACT scores that were white.
So that makes a degree from Harvard worthless then.
Well, like, you're exactly
That's what
right.
we're
Yeah,
talking about.
actually, Harvard's degree is becoming more worthless because it's more race-based than merit-based. You're
True.
exactly right.
Okay, now we talked enough about that. Okay, so in the past you made statements about black privilege. So can you explain that to me and what it is? And
Yeah, of
how
course.
black
I
people
mean,
are
it's
getting over?
easier for a black person to get into college than a white person. You get with lower test scores. It's called affirmative action.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's been so college admissions has been affirmative action for college admissions has been struck down.
Thank you. Yeah.
So-
I'll give you another example. What percentage of TV commercials have black people versus white people?
I'm not sure about that, but
About
white
40
people are also in commercials. so I
About
don't-
40. No, this is important. About 40 to 50% of all network TV commercials have a person of color right now. What percentage of America is a person of color?
At least for black people, I know we're about 13%.
Yeah, it's about so 13% of the population, nearly half of all the TV commercials.
To commercial.
White people are still
Makes
in the
no
commercials?
sense.
Yes, but underrepresented as proportional, though. The point being, I can give you another example. Easier to get corporate jobs. There are entire departments that are dedicated to just try and expand racial quotas.
You know what would really would have fixed this from the beginning had you not had all the. So why do we have DI in the first place? Because this is the problem that creates. So why was DI necessary in the first place? Why was DI necessary in the first place? Or at least the government thought it was necessary in the first place.
Why do I think that it was?
No, why would the government?
Do you want my well-intentioned explanation or the?
Whatever you got.
I mean, DEI was obviously about trying to destroy the excellence of the country and elevate racial tribal politics.
Okay, so
That
if
makes sense.
You don't have the racism, right? And then you'll need that program. So you eradicate the racism, and that eliminates the need for any kind of program.
No, but if you have excellence, you're going to find the
that
best.
tries to take people and put them in place because they're minorities.
You want the best in everything. So let me just ask a final question, okay? If you were about to board a United Airlines flight from Tallahassee to Atlanta, and you find out the airline pilot says, "Hey, everybody, I'm a pilot. I was hired because of diversity. Let's have a great flight." Would that make you feel good or not so good?
No, but I know he's still got to be
I won't
qualified in
bother
order to
to.
fly that aircraft.
But he said, "I was hired because of diversity," and you're like,
You still got to meet the standards in order to get into the cockpit.
well, again, we know because air traffic controllers and many others, they relax those standards. When you have a surgeon,
You're saying that, but look, you're not. It does not make sense. It's irresponsible. Not only to say that, but to actually put unqualified people in and risk lives.
but we know that's actually happening every day, and that's why it doesn't make sense. But racial quotas end up mattering more than excellence. When I go in for surgery, I want my surgeon to be the best surgeon, and here's where we can
I would
agree.
agree with that,
We
yes.
want a merit-based society, not a race-based society.
I say we should have started that way from the beginning, but at any rate, then the last thing, I don't want to hog the mic, but I'll just say
That's
this
fine.
last thing. So you talked about, black fathers, absentee and all this other stuff and everything else. I actually agree. Okay, more fathers in the home and everything else. That's wonderful stuff. The thing is that you also said, and I'm looking at some of your stuff previous, that there's a system in place that actually incentivizes women to make babies without husbands.
It's a
right?
great society.
Take that away,
I
and
agree.
then that problem essentially goes away.
I agree.
Now, I would ask this question also. What percent of black men do you think are abandoning their homes right now?
Well,
as it relates?
we know that it's actually 60 to 70%.
Okay, then you'd actually be wrong because, the CDC actually submitted a report in 2023 that says 54% of black men don't even have children.
But that's
Where is he getting his
54%.
stats
So,
from?
so you,
no,
you're-
those are two different numbers, man. I'm talking about those that impregnate.
Okay. Well, most black men are actually producing children within the construct of
I'm
marriage,
talking
right?
about just the kids. Because
So you're saying black men are getting married and then leaving their
not
families?
getting married. That's the problem. What I'm
What?
saying is the data. I'm saying 2 out of 3 black men impregnate women and don't stay with them.
Sir,
Yeah.
I'm telling you that 54% of black men, according to the CDC study 2023 National Health Statistics reports, literally says that 54% don't even have children.
I know that's a complete different stat. Everyone knows
missing
what
the
I'm
stats
saying
of-
and not what you're saying. That's
Okay.
a complete different. That's like a.
So-
what I'm saying is that if you have a black child, which obviously exists for some reason, right? Somebody did something to make that black baby.
Okay.
2 out of 3 times, the dad will not be around.
True.
Fact. Done.
True.
All right.
Simple. Period.
Yeah, it's only out of. Thank you. The statistics are actually out of only
So,
those who have
so,
kids.
so you got black men who are married also. They're not abandoning their children and families at high rates.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the vast majority of black babies are born out of wedlock with abandoned fathers.
Okay, so let's do this. Now, if that's bad for black
It's
babies,
bad for all. It's bad for everybody.
So then shouldn't that be your main line then?
It is actually. Everywhere I go, I
No,
talk
when
about
you
dads.
do it, you kind of focus on black men as if somehow we're the only ones. That's part of that problem.
It's
Well,
black
no, it
problem.
is a black men abandonment issue, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, would you agree that's probably the biggest issue facing black America is lack of dads?
It's one of the issues.
Okay. What is the biggest issue?
I don't know. You know, I haven't kind of thought
That's
about
fine.
that.
He
I want you to
don't
think
know.
about it over the next couple of days. We as conservatives believe
Because we got a lot of problems, but I'll
the
kind of go with
breakdown
that.
of family, we believe, is the original sin of what's happening. We think that truth transcends color. It's true for white people, black people, Asians, Hispanics. Final thought.
Okay, fine, good question. I mean, good conversation. That's just my thing is when I hear you talk about it, it seems like you're framing it improperly, and then people are here saying that I'm doing it improperly. But you know,
No,
I'm a black man in America. I
That's
know
okay.
something about
I'm just offering you grace. I'm not saying that your number is wrong. Just saying that it's a statistic that wasn't necessarily relevant to what I was saying. So thank you very much. I
All right,
appreciate
sure.
it. Thank you.
Thanks for talking.
On the mic. On mic check 1 2 1 2. All right, cool. Make sure everybody can hear me. What's going on, man? Doing all right. Welcome to Knoxville. I'm up here for one purpose. My buddy is a friend of yours. He lives up in White Pine, and he wants me to have this discussion with you because me and him had this discussion this weekend. What are your thoughts about reparations for black people specifically, and like black Americans specifically? What is your
Very much against.
Very much against. Can I ask why?
Well, first and foremost, I don't believe that we should ever pay monetary damages to people where nothing bad happened to them
Okay.
just because
Okay.
they are related to a group of people where something bad happened to them.
Okay.
True.
So
Because it separates the idea. Let me just finish, and then
Absolutely.
I'll throw it back to you. Our justice system, when properly understood, is about individuals receiving justice, not tribes or groups receiving justice.
Also, I want to state that just because I am a black man, I do not speak for all black people. So I'm just this.
I
is me
like this
speaking
guy.
for-
You should give it up for him.
Just want to state that for the record. I'm speaking for myself. So, all right. So definitely hear you on that. And even for me, when it comes to reparations, for me personally, I don't believe that it should be a check. I think that reparations can look like many different things, whether it's like investment in institutions, more like, better schools, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. So my question to you is like, so since you are against reparations, would you say that we should be would you be for outlawing inherited wealth? Does that make sense?
Well,
'Cause,
No, I'm not for outlawing
Okay,
that.
okay,
And
okay.
those are two different things.
Can
but
I
yes.
explain my point though? All right, so my point to that is that, okay, so what I hear for the argument against reparations is that, okay, black people today, obviously we weren't there, forced slavery, segregation, all of that kind of stuff. So we've done nothing to deserve that, because all the people who should have gotten it, actually not even probably, who should have gotten it are, either long gone or whatever. Now there's still some who are still with us today, but that's a conversation for another day. But my point is that so inheritance and inherited wealth is something that the great grandfather whatever is passed down. Homeboy who is here today did nothing to deserve that multi-billion-dollar business, but he gets it because of his bloodline. Correct? Is that how it?
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
how
exactly.
inheritance works, right?
Yeah, no, like
So-
Bronny James is going to get $1 billion.
Right. Yeah.
You're
Oh, I mean, yeah. Sorry. great example. So what I'm saying is that I guess what I'm trying to say is that I believe that reparations in and of itself, one, I don't think that the argument is formed right, and two, I believe that it's kind of a reverse inheritance, if that makes sense, where it's like where it's like yes, black people's like me personally, yes, I did not have to suffer through Jim Crow, slavery, or whatever, but all those choices that were made in those times have gotten necessarily me to where I'm at now.
Got
So
it.
it's
So let me tell you where we have a difference of opinion.
Okay, absolutely.
Yes,
So
it's
we as
mentality.
conservatives tend to underemphasize this idea of many legacies of suffering. Whereas people on the left, not saying you're on the left, but the other perspective.
definitely not.
No, for sure. But that's fine. No, that's fine. Let's just say the other side of the argument tend to emphasize that you are stuck because of something that happened to you many generations prior. We believe, absent very unique circumstances in the United States of America, that is almost never true. For example, we think every individual should be judged by their own actions, their own character, and their agency. Now, let's play this out, though. You're acting as if, not you, but let's say the argument, because you're coming after this in a great way, there's been no money sent Black America the last 60 years. We have spent over $25 trillion on Black America in 60 years, and Black America's poorer than before we started. We're talking about Medicaid, food stamps, we're talking about schools, public housing. The issue is not the amount of money. The issue has instead been a couple things. Number one, it's been the downfall of the Black family. And unfortunately,
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, the more money we've spent on this, we've seen the downfall of the Black family. Just some numbers super quick. Is that in 1964, right before the passage of the Civil Rights Act, 75% of Black youth had a dad around. Now it's 25%. So only 25%. So 1 in 4 kids have a dad around. Black dads are no longer a big part of young kids' life. It's a very big problem that has huge ramifications. Then finally, on the reparations argument, that comes into just more concrete questions. Where do you draw the line? who defines it? And also, why would you tax, for example, somebody like me? My ancestors fought on the Union side of the Civil War, so I got to go pay more money, even though my ancestors did the right thing. No offense if you guys fought for the Confederacy. That's not trying to, drum up any, it's all good. We're all Americans now. I'm not. Why should I have to then go pay for something that my ancestors did correctly? Finally, it's like, how do you prove it? Prove it. Like, this is not your argument, but it's a hilarious contradiction. The very same people who tell you that voter ID is racist want all of a sudden Black America to prove that they're the descendants of slaves 7 generations ago. Like, let me go get my paperwork together. I thought it's racist to ask people for their paperwork. Anyway, the whole thing's crazy. But here's the more important thing that I think we can agree on. That we should have a opportunity colorblind compact. We need to have school choice in this country so kids can go to better schools and have more mobility. Number 2, reconstitute the Black family. And finally, this is one that you might agree on because you're not a liberal, is that we need to no longer import foreigners that are going to undercut the wages of workers of all races, especially Black Americans.
I agree.
And so what we've done is we imported Nicaraguans and Guatemalans to come take low-wage labor, and we didn't want to pay our own Americans those jobs. So final thoughts on those points.
Also, great points. I would say that I am with you for the idea of a colorblind society. I think that I think it's a bit of a farce to say that colorblind society is something we should aspire to, but I think it's a farce to think that it doesn't exist, that race doesn't play a factor. I totally
agree.
Okay, and so
I will say it plays far less of a factor 10 years ago. It's playing more of a factor today.
Yes, I agree.
In a negative way.
Yes, I 100%. I mean, I think you had mentioned something about DEI like earlier, and I was like, for sure, like the way I agree with DEI in principle, but I think the way it's been instituted by our government and all the other institutions is completely wrong. So, because for me, it's not about seeing color; it's how you treat color. Does that make sense?
Everyone's going to see color. And
exactly.
You're right.
Yeah,
and so it's an ideal that is admirable, being colorblind.
Right.
The problem we were promised with the Civil Rights Act, we were promised a colorblind society. We now have a color-obsessed society. True. And it's a breakdown of that promise. Instead, the country I grew up in, at least, was like, yeah, you're Black, but it doesn't matter. It's not the most important thing. Instead, it's, are you a good person? How do you act? How do you treat other people? Are you a Christian? Like, what is your worldview? I want to get back to that. Of course, we're still going to see differences, but I want to de-emphasize them to a place where we look at each other as fellow human beings and fellow American citizens. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely not.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
One more, hey, can I get a hat from my buddy?
Absolutely.
Can I get a hat from my buddy? Appreciate it.
I'll get you too, right? Thank you, man.
Can I shake your hand, man? Appreciate you.
Right? So when segregation ended, right, Black people, or when slavery ended, actually, Black people were just forced wherever, right? So they had nowhere to go. And then there was laws put in place to put them into prison, and after...
Okay. It's okay. No. What's your name?
Calm down.
Guys, what's your name?
Jackson.
It takes a lot of courage to come up here.
Yeah, no,
Let's just take a deep breath. I'm not here to pick on you.
No,
and I appreciate it. No, it's okay. I know this can be very intimidating getting into a crowd like this, so just take a deep breath. Let me make your argument. I'm going to make your argument for you, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's wrong. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the argument that is being made, that you want to make, is that there's legacies of injustice.
Yes.
And that those legacies impact one generation after the other. And when those things get handed down, you have what is a system or a systemic issue that isn't just isolated in 2024. So the argument that you're making is that what happened in 1954 does impact 2024 of decade after decade after decade. Let me tell you my response to that. Of course, there is some truth to that. However, every culture, every person in this audience can point to issues that families or generations prior had that we're able to overcome. So the question is, why is it that Black America is one of the only populations, that and Native American populations, that have not been able to overcome such evil, horrors, and injustices? Here's my perspective, and I want to hear what you have to say, is that the number one way to keep people out of poverty, lower the crime rate, and have a better society is whether or not you have a mom and a dad around. Would we agree that's an ideal? Yeah? Cool.
Yeah.
So what happened in 1964 is that 25% of Black youth were raised by a single mom. Today, it's nearly 75%, about 70%. So that means that 1 in 4 Black kids will have a father around. Only 1 in 4. That's the number one issue happening in the country, and it's not because of systemic racism. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay, so I think I misjudged you at first. Like when you brought up the 1350 stat, I had like just assumed that it was like inherently like eugenics based, kind of, you know. So, and that's where mine came from. Like I think we are on the same page that like we know what the problem is, and that's what I mean. Like
No,
the
and
education.
thank you for saying that, because I think we actually have a lot more in common in this country than the media would
Yeah,
ever
no,
believe.
definitely, right? And like what my point was, I was trying to say is I don't think that we're doing enough to help these black communities catch up. Where as like they're underfunded and they're not and they're over policed and there's just these factors that are contributing to, like you said, these single parent households.
Yeah,
like
so we're not going to agree on this. This is where we'll disagree, and that's okay. I have more of a view of Thomas Sowell on this, where he believes it's far more about culture, values, and worldview than stuff and over policing. I believe there's not enough police in black neighborhoods. You're going to disagree with that. Let's not even get into it, okay? But I think we can ask a question, and I want your opinion. Why is it that the single motherhood rate in black America went from 25% to 75%
70%.
over 50 years, where America did become less racist?
like why did it?
Yeah, so what caused black America to go from one of the strongest nuclear family communities in the country to now the weakest by far?
I can't answer your question.
No, that's okay. No, that's great. And again, it's hard to get up and have these conversations. Here's my opinion. My opinion is that yes, there was some social welfare that subsidized single motherhood, which means it's easier to get cash from the government if you say you are single than if you are married. I think we can agree that's stupid. That shouldn't happen, right? But I would love your perspective on this. Do you think in black culture, getting married and staying with one woman for your entire life is elevated and celebrated?
No, not at all.
I think that's the problem.
I think the problem stems from a lack of education. I think these communities don't have. I don't think a lot of them have the proper education or learning from previous to realize what will lead them to a more successful future. I think that if we funded more education in these systems, then these men wouldn't be so focused
We've
on
tried that
stuff
already.
like gang violence to
Yeah,
get protection or money or
you have a
other
great
stuff like that, and then end up in prison and then end up with their child having a single mother.
Fair enough. So
Sorry, I didn't.
no, it's
that
great.
well.
So there's a lot of examples that there's some merit to your argument, but it's more about the quality of education than the amount of money we spend on it.
Yeah.
Such as, that's why I'm a big proponent of school choice and educational vouchers and opposing the teacher unions. But the core is this, is that the number one predictor for a kid of any skin color, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, is whether or not dad is around.
Right.
And I look, as an outsider, albeit, at current black culture, right? From the athletes to the rap music to the music, I don't see the nuclear family elevated. Nor is it an internal black cultural expectation. Now, I will ask some of the white individuals here in this audience, okay? If you guys got pregnant and all of a sudden you didn't even know who the father was who was around, how would your parents react? Not great, right? Yes? Unfortunately, in black America, this is kind of accepted. Would you agree?
I can't say. I grew up around a lot of white people, so I can't
All right,
say.
okay.
Like,
Well, so, but it is a fact that it is
sure.
accepted,
Yeah,
right? So that's
yeah.
the problem.
I'm
The
just saying
problem
I'm-
is
I'm-
that it's a
It's not an
cultural
issue.
norm that has then turned into the cycle of poverty. The cycle of poverty can break very quickly if fathers stayed with the women they impregnate.
But most of these fathers aren't just leaving. A large majority of these fathers are ending up in prison. Like
Okay,
this is
good point. Why do you go to prison?
because you commit
Commits
crimes.
crime.
Okay,
because
yeah.
the prison system has been targeted against minorities.
Again, we're not
for-
going to agree here,
Right,
and that's
we're not.
okay.
Yeah.
There's actually under enforcement of the laws when it
Under-
comes where there's, for example, only half of murders in Chicago get solved.
Right, but are
that
they
mean-
all black people though?
Almost all of them, yeah, like 80.
Well,
80
if they're not solved, how do we know that they're black people?
Well, because it's a black victim in a black neighborhood by a black gang. So it's
So-
like you can assume at a great approximation that in the west side of Chicago,
50% of the murders in Chicago that go unsolved are all black people.
not all.
dead in
No,
black.
I said 85%. But we don't know who the perp is. But again, if you have a black victim at 2 a.m. in a black neighborhood, it's reasonable to say that it was a black on black crime. 90% of murders after 2 a.m. in Chicago are black on black crimes. I'm from Chicago.
Right.
I happen to know it.
So-
right. But
so-
no, but like half of all murders in Chicago are unsolved, which that means half of all murderers are walking free. So we have an under enforcement of laws. We have the ladies here in this audience should know this. You know that there's over 600,000 rape kits in this country that have not even been opened or tested, which means that there are women who say that they've been raped and their kits are not even put in the system. There are probably hundreds of thousands of rapists that walk free in this country.
Yeah, no, our system is
No, what I'm saying though, that's an under enforcement of laws though.
Yeah, because our system is terrible.
No, I know, but you said we have an over enforcement. I don't think we have enough people in jail.
You don't think we have enough
No,
people?
like I said,
Yeah,
half of all murderers walk free. We don't even know who they are.
Okay, but
True, makes sense.
Okay, and I sure, whatever. But I'm talking. I don't think that I don't think that black people are as more than 50% of exonerations from prison are black people. Like a black person is more likely than any other race to be tried for a crime that they did not commit, and then to be released from prison for a crime that they did not commit.
That's not totally true. Let's pretend that it is. It's because they're in front of the justice system more because of the high crime. But let's try to find some agreement.
I'm talking percentages of exonerations.
No, it's because they're in the system more, though. It's because you have more cases. But anyway, let's pretend that's true. Let's pretend the system's totally racist.
Actually, there's more white people in the system because white people make up
No, for sure.
So you were just incorrect there, right? Like you're doing to me.
But they don't commit as many crimes.
Okay, so
I've been
let's be
super
cordial. Let's be cordial.
You're not being, so let's calm down a little bit, okay?
You're not being.
Am I being sweet to this guy?
Okay, right, but
all right. Let me ask you one question in closing, though. If you could say to Black America, here is more money, more stuff, more housing, or more fathers, which one would you choose?
More funding. I don't think because fathers.
This
I
guy's
think
not listening
that
to
you need to
anything
solve the
Charlie's
problem
saying.
from the bottom. I don't think you can just plant a bunch of fathers in and they're going to stay there. Like you said, they're just going to like in the culture. It's not part of the culture, so they would just leave.
It's a hypothetical, meaning if the fathers were to stay.
Were to stay?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. If I just knew for 100% fact that they were going to stay.
No,
sure.
we have agreement. So during the BLM stuff 4 years ago, did we hear anything from the national BLM leaders or anybody about black dads staying around with women they impregnate? Did anyone mention that?
No.
Why?
Because they don't care.
It's the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is if you have a father around, less likely to commit crimes, more likely to graduate high school, more likely to get a job, less likely to be in poverty.
How do we get there? Like this is what I'm like.
No,
how do we get there?
Well, the first of which is you must raise the standard of expectation, both internally and externally in the black community, that we're not going to put up with men, because we're both men, fleeing the women that they impregnate. Yeah. That we will say to men that flee the women that they impregnate, you're a loser, we're not going to tolerate you, we're not going to be friends with you, that you're the scum of the earth, that if you impregnate a woman and you just run away from them.
Most definitely.
Do we do that right now?
I don't think all men do. I think this is very common. What's the word I'm looking? I think this is very common in just masculine culture in general. Is that men won't do that too.
I actually think it's the opposite of masculine culture too. I think it's not feminine, it's something else. No, just fleeing from the difficult.
Well, no, but I'm saying in male circles, I feel like that is something that males would praise, or at least around my age range. That's something that happens.
So then I think we need to demand better. Thank you for coming up to the mic. I know it's not easy, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Have a good day, sir.
All right, you seem pretty educated on foreign and domestic policies. I'll try not to. You seem pretty educated on foreign and domestic policies. What's your take on rectifying the homeless crisis in LA, as far as it goes with Karen Bass and Governor Newsom coming from, San Francisco and such? What can we do moving forward? Is DEI the next way to fix these programs, allocating these funds, figuring out what the council members are doing? Where should we go with this? What's the next step for Californians and locals?
It's very simple. When Xi Jinping visited San Francisco, all the streets were cleaned up and it looked like Singapore and there were no more homeless. We can solve the homelessness problem overnight.
That's correct.
If we choose to do it. But your leaders are choosing not to clean up the streets. It takes the will. Every homeless person should be given a place in a shelter, should be given 3 meals a day. They should be given a shower, but they should never be given license to stay on the streets. The streets are not their home.
True.
You clean up the streets and you give them the help they need. Period. End of story.
Another big YouTuber, Channel 5, Brandon Cunningham, does a lot of hit pieces on San Francisco's homelessness crisis and how bad the issue is. There's a lot of programs that don't work because it's enforced by the city. They hand out needles, they hand out kits.
Correct.
So what can you do to stop that? That's
Stop
obviously for the
electing
harm.
Democrats.
Yeah. So this local election, right? For the local election, a lot of people didn't turn out for the election. How can we increase the voter turnout to change those?
I mean, it's as insofar that people want to keep on living in this hellscape, then you will.
Yeah.
But you do not have to have the homelessness problem. You do not have to have the crime problem. It is a casualty of choice. It is a choice to have the streets the way they are. And as long as people don't show up, I guess they don't care enough.
Hey, we had a conversation earlier, one by
make
one.
it quick because I don't like to do repeats. But
Well, absolutely. Well, I'm talking about a different topic this time. You made some interesting points. You made some interesting points about the crime statistics in the African American community. You think crime and poverty are intrinsically linked?
Not always, but they could be directionally close to each other. For example, poor Asians are not necessarily more likely to commit crimes than a poor black person.
Okay. Do you think there's systematic functions in place that prevent African Americans from moving upward?
No, does not exist.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think they've ever enforced any
Well,
policies or any actions?
Maybe 40 or 50 years ago, but nothing in our lifetime, not even close.
I would say in our lifetime, right? Within our
That's a big deal,
our
though,
last
right?
20 decades, our last 2 decades, right? We've had a lot of opportunities for upper mobility, right?
And for whatever reason,
But at a systemic
It hasn't
level,
worked.
at a systemic level, there's a history of prejudice within the American system against African Americans and black people.
But there's also historic systemic bias against Asian Americans and Jews. It hasn't held them back.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about them.
No,
right?
but it's important to compare. Why is it that it held blacks back but not Asians or Jews?
So I'll answer that. So Jews, well, let me speak about Asians. As a model minority, right? They've had more opportunities for upper mobility.
How?
Well, in terms of getting business loans, setting up in different neighborhoods.
Well, there was a lot more anti-Asian discrimination in California than anti-black discrimination in the 40s and 50s.
So you agree
A lot more.
100% that African Americans have given the same opportunities
No, I'm not. Look,
as far as redlining goes?
groups are sometimes treated poorly. Whether or not you're able to overcome that is the question. Number two.
So treated poorly doesn't cover it. I have a couple things. I have a couple lines right here. So treated poorly doesn't cover it. I have a couple things. I have a couple lines right here. So we have the Tulsa massacre of 1921, right?
Yeah,
Where African Americans established a black.
Ago.
Well, they established a black Wall Street, right? And that was taken down. We have the
How did that
Black
im-
Panthers
How does that
in
impact
San
you?
Francisco.
How does that impact you?
I'm saying there's a history. I'm trying to establish a link here.
No, but I think, again, that you're trained to do this in the college. It has no bearing on whether or not you can make good decisions or not.
Well,
right?
college has no impetus on my thinking. This is
No, I know, but I reject the whole premise. You are not a creature or a victim of what happened 104 years ago. You're your own being with your own agency, your own ability to make decisions of right
and I
or
agree
wrong.
to not subscribing to a victim mentality and taking accountability
I know, but
for your actions.
I don't think any of that plays into your current status.
You don't think so at all?
No.
Can you list more reasons as to why?
Yeah, the number one problem with Black America is the fact that dads are not around, not the fact that
and
there
that's
was
enforced by the government.
No, it's not.
Different. I would say on an individual basis, there's different programs that stop.
Two out of three black youth did not have a dad around.
Yeah, there's a crack epidemic. CIA moved crack into the hood. We went into different hoods in Los Angeles community.
Yeah, but you have to still choose to do drugs.
Thank
So,
you.
like, the point
It's
is you're a
choice.
victim of your
Don't
choices,
blame.
not your circumstances. That's what makes us conservatives
I
different.
think you're removing culpability
So-
from people, but I agree
Well,
with
no,
the
but
accountability.
we
and the
believe
circumstance.
choices are what determine what you're in, not what's around you.
Yeah,
so,
your choices inform your
so-
environment and your outcomes. I agree with that.
Yeah. So then, if people choose to do crack cocaine and therefore your kids don't have a dad around, that's your own choice. If you choose to commit crimes and you're in prison, that's your own choice.
Yeah,
But
there's-
no other community has had this problem. Why is Black America have this problem?
I
Why
think
is it
there's
this
a
high?
direct link between the prison industrial complex and
Well,
incarceration
but how does one get to prison?
and the profiling African
Well, hold on.
Americans.
But first of all, it's not a profiling when it comes to that. Blacks are far more likely to commit crimes than any other group associated. It's like 3 to 4 times more likely. It's not even close. So how is that?
Well, I'm not
profiling?
here to debate numbers because I don't have the numbers with
It's
me.
okay. When you get home, you can look at it. Black Americans are 13% of the population. They commit 55% of the violent crime.
A statistic I've heard before.
Right. And,
Again,
and
I
you've
don't
heard
have
it-
the numbers to
It's fine.
counter
You
it.
could independently fact check it later. I don't anticipate you to have it off the top of your head. But why is that?
I don't have a direct answer.
I know.
for
That's
that.
what I want you to think about it, and I'm not going to put you on the spot. Here's our answer. It's easy and tempting to say systemic racism, redlining, right? All that, or you could say, maybe it's because dads aren't around, because dads being with their equivalent others or spouses is not a value in the black community anymore. It's acceptable to have men impregnate women and flee.
True.
I don't.
It's not a cultural
I
expectation.
think our cultural expectation is for African Americans to stand with their families and increase, because there's a lot of evidence that shows when two parents are present in a household, they have a higher chance of their
for
children
sure.
succeeding.
I agree. Then
and
why doesn't
moving
that happen?
upward.
So why don't black dads stay around?
I think that's a progression in our community. I think that's a progression.
But
now.
why is
I'm
that
saying
happening,
that the reason that we're here is there's a lot of factors that led us to this point.
I don't under, but it's a decision that a black man can make. He's impregnated a woman, so he's not in jail, so he's like a free citizen. Why not stay with that woman and start a family?
And I'd say for the most part,
66% of the time
we're
it does
moving in
not.
that- we're
it's
moving
not.
in that
it's
direction.
It's getting worse, not better, actually. The single fatherhood rate is getting worse in Black America. It was 25% in 1965. It was 50% in 1980. It's 75% in certain cities now. It's beyond comprehension. It's like the worst of the industrialized world. And there's only one explanation. It's that it's not a cultural value in Black America right now.
I think we have to disagree. I think it is a cultural value moving forward, and I think
But
it
then
has
why
been
is
a
it
cultural
happening?
value. And I think post-civil rights movements, and especially during the civil rights movement, that was a major impetus. That was a major focus of the black community, and that's how we got through that
But
movement.
you know,
It's
Black
through that
America.
structure and that family
You know, Black
unit.
America's actually gotten poorer since the Civil Rights Act.
Well, yes, I understand
Why?
that. I don't have an answer for that.
It's okay. Think about it. And I'm
Is it
not saying it's
time
one
you
or the
say
other,
that?
but the Civil Rights Act is revered as this amazing thing. But Black America is actually poorer, more likely to commit crimes, more poverty than it was before the Civil Rights Act. There's a lot of explanations. Thomas Sowell's written entire books about this.
And I've read on Thomas Sowell.
Good, and I want you to keep reading Thomas Sowell because he'll push your boundaries and he's phenomenal. Here's our belief system. The most important thing is dads in the home. If you do not have two parents around, everything falls apart. It's not about government checks or welfare. It's the nuclear family. The nuclear family is a guarantor more than anything else that a kid is going
And
to.
I 100% agree with that.
Right. So we have to figure out then, it's a riddle. I think I know the answer. Why so many black youth do not have dads around.
I personally think the answer is more convoluted than that. I think it's a bit muddled. I think going forward, there's going to be an upward progression in that area. I have to look at the numbers, and I'll come back to you with some better statistics.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thanks for your good-hearted question. Thank you very much.
This itself actually makes a lot of sense. Like, let's start from the first guy. So every single person that came here to talk to Charlie, they were all playing the victim game. Every single one of them. Every single one of them keep up that game. They keep on playing that victim mentality bullshit thing. Starting from this elderly man who came first, he was already busting up already. That Charlie is twisting weight. That Charlie is making everything seems like black people are the problem. Black people are the problem. It's as simple as that. Black people commit over 55 to 60% of crime in America alone. That is a very big number for a group of 13% of the population in the country. And you guys are committing over 60% of the crime in the country. That is alarming. That is serious. You guys need over-policing. Like, over-policing. It's important. In any state that have massive numbers of black people, there have to be more police over there to handle the crime. In Chicago, like just according to what Charlie said, in Chicago, you guys need more policing. So whenever I see people come out and they want to attack Charlie because of his statements of motherhood will be subsidized by the government, they will just be provoked. That when he says the problems of black families is that lack of fathers in the home, they'll be like, that's not true. It is true. And they had a DI conference that they did not even mention the main cause of issue in the black families. When black people are talking, the main issue, they tend to gaslight it. Every single time, I see this every time. Like, you guys know the main issue in black families. There is no stable home. There is no stable home in the black homes. Either your dad is in prison, either your dad is dead, either your dad has divorced your mom. Like, it is terrible. These kids that are growing up with single mothers, and mothers herself cannot raise children alone. They need assistance. They need that father figure. The mother brings her motherly duties, but now she also needs a father figure, and the father figure is not there. So you're training the child just through one part. Do you understand? It takes the time to probably have uncles or have mentors. The child will be like, okay, this is how fathers ought to behave. If not, they will be in one direction. And kids that tend to grow up with their mom alone, they tend to hustle more. In the aspect of like, they leave home early. They want to go and find better life quickly. They want to provide for their mom early because they know the hard time the mom has passed through. They know the tough time the mother has passed through. They want an easy life for the mother. So they tend to find a way to earn more, to earn money, to get a job, to get something doing as early as possible. And they tend to enter into the wrong group. These gangs steal from shops and some other crimes that they commit still. It's serious. Because why? They want to make sure ends meets. They want to make sure the mom have something. And also the mothers too, they are not also helping. Some of the mothers in these black communities, the black women, they are just, some of them are into drugs. Some of them have other people that they're following, like people that are dating too, like they tend to give their children less attention. Some of them too neglect. You understand? They feel like the pressure is too much. You get? So it's a lot of things that's happening in the black community that people are not talking about. And our musicians are not making it easy. Our actresses and artists are not making it easy. They are more focused on having babies. Like you see a black man like this, you say you have like 6 babies from different women, 8 babies from different women. Like it is mind-blowing. It is crazy to just be like, and you're comfortable? Let's use NBA. Never broke again. That artist. Are you seeing the issue in black families? It's serious. And people are not just talking about it, that gaslighting the main cause issue and asking for education, that they should fund education. Education is not the issue. Education is needed, but it's not the main cause. You understand? Education itself is, okay, people have to be educated, people have to know more about, have to be more enlightened with their brain, have to know the right from the wrong. You have to teach them more moral things. You have to allow them to go to school to finish, to find something doing a legit work, doing accepted. But the main cause issue that is making black poor and backward is because of this lack of fathers in the home that we are all neglecting. And the government subsidizing motherhood that we are all neglecting is a very big issue. And when Charlie comes out and saying it have to do with DI or affirmative action, people hold it against him. The DI they are all talking about and also affirmative action, it makes it easy for black people to enter into, to get jobs and also to enter into colleges. It is alarming, if you ask me. This is an instance. So this is a black man. Then this is the job he's going for. He's good, but not perfect. There's a difference. But because he's black, they figure out a way, okay, he's good and he has a little bit of knowledge about this. And he's actually, okay, he has knowledge, he's good, but not perfect. So they bring him to fly an aircraft, also to become a surgeon. It is terrible. We should not allow people to be in places of healthcare, of any job, if you are not extremely good at it, if you are not at the best at it. Because I don't want someone who is good to perform a surgery on me. I don't want someone who is the best to perform a surgery on me. Someone who is more experienced, someone who really knows what he's doing to perform a surgery on me. Because this has to do with my life or death. It is a very tangible and delicate thing. Do you understand? So you should not allow people into organization, into businesses, into things because of their skin color. You should not do that. Or because you want to feel or trying to make it to be more diverse. To be more diverse in what way? By bringing on underqualified people into businesses, into organization, into schools, just because of their skin tone. It's not done like that. It's not done like that. I also Harvard do this too. Allow different races, allow black people into colleges because of their skin color. No. Everyone has to meet the criteria. Black people are very smart. I can say that. Black people are very knowledgeable. Black people are very smart. Black people really know what they are doing. They are very, very clever. You don't boycott because of your skin color. You face it. If not, people will be like, okay, this guy got this job because of his skin color. This guy got this job. This guy got this job because of his skin color. Whereas it's not like that. Whereas the person might be very qualified. But because of that DEI and affirmative action, people feel like this person got there because of his skin color. Which is bad. It's a very bad narrative. I love how Charlie handled every single one of them in a very polite and respectful manner. Like, I really do appreciate the entire conversation. I love how Charlie handled it as a matured man and also follow each and every one of them to talk. Just that the issue I have with every single one of them that Charlie followed and talk, and Charlie had a conversation with, is that they are all playing that victim game. They are all seeing the main issue and gaslighting it. Every single one of them, they saw the issue and they gaslight it. You can go check out the video again. Every single one of them, when Charlie talked about lack of fathers in the home, they all saw the issue, but they choose to gaslight it. They'll change it to like they need education. Over policing is the issue. They always want to gaslight the main core issue of black people not striving in the society. They always want to tackle, they always want to avoid that. I don't know why. I love Charlie. He does not hide it. He says it plain as it is. And in a very respectful manner. He was very respectful. The guy with purple hats and purple shirts, the guy was acting a bit rude towards the ending. And Charlie was very, very tolerating. Very tolerating. Comment down below what you think about this video. Give us a thumbs up. Share this video to as many as can. Subscribe to our channel, guys. Give us a thumbs up. We'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you guys stay safe.